Hey, all you Minties, this is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an overview of all the collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week. So, let's do this thing. Before getting started, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these trade paperbacks. All these books are due out in the direct market and book market on December 14th or 15th, depending on where you get your books. So we have an epic collection, a graphic novel, a Reign of X anthology to look at, and as always, I leave timestamps in the description of the video so you can jump around and skip the books you not interested in or don't want to know anything about in case there's any spoiler talk, which I hardly do, but I do warn people ahead of time when I'm about to. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll be looking at the Marvelverse Thor book first, which collects one of the most hidden gems in the history of Thor comics. First up, we have Marvelverse Thor, and this is part of their GN trade paperback line. So they're a little bit smaller in trim size than your trade paperbacks. They're also cheaper. This one retails for $9.99. And these serve as the pure purpose of getting somebody familiar with the character. So when Thor Love and Thunder comes out, you may want to gift this to somebody that's interested in having a sampler of the comics. Now, what this collects is Thor the Mighty Avenger 1 and 2, Marvel Adventure Superheroes number 7, Marvel Adventure Superheroes number 19, Thor Crown of Fools, and Thor Where Walk the Frost Giants. This is one that, I'll be honest, I wish they had collected in oversized format. The Mighty Avenger is one of the best Thor stories that I've read. And I think it does a phenomenal job of introducing you to the character and his supporting cast. And it doesn't take place in the main 616 universe. And you have some Chris Samnee artwork here too. But there is so much heart that goes into this. And sadly, the series got canceled and it never got finished. I was hoping one day that they would finish it out. I know it's available in complete collections. I think there's only 8 issues. But they never finished it. And it's just a good take on the relationship between Thor and Midgard, Earth. And mainly Jane Foster. But if you've not read it, do yourself a favor and read it. It is such a fun read. And I think the characters are just the way that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby envisioned them when they were created long ago, but just a modern take on them. There's a couple of Marvel superhero adventures here too. Here, let's look at the artwork there. Just some great artwork, honestly. Of course, this is based more on the idea that these stories were written for kids, so it's like a spin on these old stories with more of a kid-friendly plot line. There's a couple of stories in there, and then the Crown of Fools right here, with the variant cover by John Romita Jr. And this is a story that puts him up against the Warrior 3 and Lady Sif and their relationship. And then we get the Where Walks the Frost Giants, which brings back Todd Nauck as the artist. I love his art. This is why I wanted it in oversized format. Not that there's anything wrong with this format, but also puts Ralph Macchio back on writing a story. It's been a while since I've seen one of his stories. And he, of course, was a longtime editor at Marvel Comics. 128 pages, and like I mentioned, retails for $9.99. The back, there's only one variant back here, and then all the other GNs of the Marvelverse books. Dr. APHRA, War of the Bounty Hunters. So this is volume 3 of Dr. APHRA's new series. This is the one by Alyssa Wong. The drawings in here are by Minkyu Jun and Federico Sabatini. And then you have covers by Sarah Pichelli. So this kind of keeps you up to what's happening in the world of Dr. APHRA, but it's about to cross over with the big War of the Bounty Hunters. And this is when I started putting pieces together, because something happened in the pages of the companion that leads directly into this, but also at the ending of issue 1 of War of the Bounty Hunters, the main series, not the Alpha series, you find one of the characters that shows up in this particular story. So I thought this was cool. Like, it's all connecting now. And like I said, one day I hope they do a War of the Bounty Hunters omnibus. That would be awesome. And hopefully put it in a perfect reading order. I think it's going to be hard to do with some of the stories in the companion, though. So we still have Just Lucky and Adeola Yu, who are teaming up. And now they have to go and find somebody from their past. Somebody that trained them. Then we have this bounty hunter here known as Dirge coming up against Dr. APHRA and Santa Steros. So he's hanging out on this abandoned ship. But the main part of this that crosses over into War of the Bounty Hunters is one of the greatest reunions, I think, right here. And I'm not talking about Boba Fett. That's just the cover. Between Dr. APHRA and another character. And I can't reveal exactly who that is because I don't want to spoil anything. And it's going to be hard to talk about exactly how cool it was to see that reunion. So everybody's doing their own thing, but all four of these characters are about to meet up during this particular party. So again, the premise of War of the Bounty Hunters is that Han Solo is missing. His body is missing. It was supposed to be given to Jabba the Hutt by Boba Fett. So all these bounty hunters are trying to find it and cash in on the price. And it's a damn fun story, and one that it fits right into the canon of the movies. Of course, Dr. APHRA's trying to steal this necklace because she's on a heist, and this necklace holds a lot of data and information. But like I said, these four characters are about to meet, probably not in the best circumstances. Then we get another character in here. I love these ninja type of characters. This is Deathstick, I think is what her name is. Yeah, Deathstick. So we get her interfering with this fight right here against students and master. And I did want to show Federico Sabatini's artwork here, because it's a little bit different. It's a little more cartoony. And it's weird to say that because Jung's artwork is cartoony. But for some reason that one feels more like an anime than Jung's artwork does. Now, as far as the extras, we have some variant covers back here. One by Giuseppe Camuncoli. We did that wonderful Star Wars Darth Vader book. And some other variants. This book collects issues 11 through 15 of the Alyssa Wong series of Dr. APHRA. And retails for $15.99. It has 120 pages. And that's where else you can get other Star Wars books. And there's a lot of them. Thor by Donny Cates, Volume 3. This one is called Revelations. And this collects issues 15 through 18 of the Thor 2020 series. Drawn by Michelle Bandini, who's also the inker for most of this, and Matthew Wilson supplying the colors. And this also collects annual number 1 of Thor, the 2020 series. So here we have Thor. He's having issues with his hammer. It's not like unworthy Thor, like he can't lift it, but something is going on. Either the hammer is controlling him, other people are able to lift it, like Loki, which is so different than what we're used to, because we're used to him being the only one that can lift that hammer. Yeah, I realized that other people in the Marvel Universe have lifted Mjolnir, including Superman in that awesome JLA Avengers crossover, but for the most part, it's always been Odin's son. He's the one that's been able to lift the hammer. So he approaches the Avengers. He's a little out of it. He doesn't feel like himself, and realizes that he needs help. And what he ends up doing is he ends up leaving the hammer with Captain America. And he states that he can no longer be Asgard's hammer. So now he goes on a search for Odin, who's been missing for a while. We don't know exactly where he is. So there is a family reunion here. I don't want to spoil it. I was just asking about this particular character, where they've been for a while. We do have this reunion between Valkyrie, Jane Foster, and Thor. And then we have this right here. But since I don't want to talk about who else shows up, I don't want to spoil that for anybody, let's look at the annual. So here's the annual all the way in the back. This was part of the Infinite Destinies crossover, which you really didn't need to read any of the other annuals to get, but it's pretty much the search for the Infinity Gems. And I really wish, damn it, I could talk about some of the things that show up here. All I'm saying is, I better get at least a mini-series of what happens towards the end of this issue number 18. At least a mini-series out of it. But this is some of the gorgeous artwork in here by Aaron Kuder. that you're going to be seeing. Big fan of his stuff since he was doing Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a very Arthur Adams look to his style. As far as the extras, we do have some extras in the back. Keep in mind, some of these extras make absolutely no sense. They're just pieces of art. Like the Deadpool one there is an example. And then, so good to see Travis Charest draw again. I'd love to see his internal artwork for either Marvel or DC one day. And we have the Joe Jusko variants. I was just talking about those. And the other thing I was going to say is how much I really like Bandini's artwork. Reminds me a little bit of a mix between Jeff Shaw with somebody with a more cartoony feel to it, like Sarah Pichelli. But I think it really works nice on this particular story of Thor. So the book retails for $15.99, and it has 120 pages. Alright, all you spine watchers, time to pause the video, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and ring that bell for notifications. But here's what all the spines look like for all the books coming out this week. Now, let's keep going. Reign of X, Volume 7. And this one actually contains the issues that were solicited for this book. So, Volume 7 kicking it off with X-Force. So, containing X-Force 18 through 19, Children of the Atom number 2, New Mutants 16 through 17, and Cable number 9. And the story of X-Force during this time is that there is an Omega level mutant that's going around and messing with people's heads. And this Omega level mutant looks a lot like like a messed up version of Quentin Quire and Kid Omega. And his powers are very similar to that of Quentin's. So Quentin and Phoebe, one of the Cuckoos, step into the astral plane to try to figure out what exactly is going on. There is a certain death of a character in here, but if you're familiar with what's going on in the pages of Reign of X or Dawn of X, you know that probably means little to nothing. Then we have the Children of the Atom, which I know I did an overview of. The what was the trade paperback? I wasn't a fan of this series at all. I think I made that pretty clear. Do love Bernard Chang's artwork, though. So you have these 5 new characters: Marvel Guy, Day Tripper, Cyclops Lass, Gimmick, and Cherub, who have very similar powers and even look like classic X-Men characters. I did enjoy this, the return of, what were they called, the Femme Furies, I think, from Peter David's run on X-Factor. But I wasn't a fan of that. And somebody on my Saturday stream just said, maybe you're not a fan of Vita Ayala. That's not true, because I am enjoying New Mutants. Probably more than I should be. And I think it's a good mix of the artwork by Rod Reyes and Vita Ayala's script and story. There's a lot of characters in here. And yes, Rod Reyes is really channeling his inner Bill Sienkiewicz. I've mentioned that before. And it's always good to see Scout somewhere. She will forever be Honey Badger to me. But I am really enjoying this. Maybe it's all the characters. Maybe it's nostalgia. I don't know. But I do enjoy this Vita Ayala story. So here we have the New Mutants. And some of them feel like they belong in the other world. And it's up to Moonstar and Karma to get one of their students back. Meanwhile, the Shadow King is manipulating some of the characters. And I love this artwork. It is gorgeous. It, like I said, reminds me when Bill Sienkiewicz took over New Mutants. And him and Claremont just made some of the best stories. Like kicking it off with the Demon Bear. I know people love the Demon Bear saga, but to me, my favorite one was the Fairy Tale issue. And honestly, that's what they look at. Roma, my goodness. Woo! Anyway, the last issue that's collected in here is that of Cable. I almost called him X-Man. And here we have the return of a classic villain from the Inferno era, and that is Nastareth. And of course, we do have a new Inferno during the Reign of X, but that hasn't happened yet. And this is all about him trying to stop these people that are kidnapping kids. He meets one of the Mutant Liberation Fronts because he thinks he knows who is behind all this. Of course, when I say Mutant Liberation Front, you guys can probably put 2 and 2 together. And where is old Cable if young Cable is here? Is old Cable still around? One way to find out. Sadly, the series only went 12 issues. And it's all going to be collected in an oversized hardcover format. We do have this nice meet up with Patch. That's Wolverine's secret identity, by the way. We have the extras all the way in the back with some splash pages for variant covers, including one of Deadpool, who is not even in here. Oh, it's Deadpool's 30th anniversary. That's what's going on. That's why we're getting to see a lot of Deadpool. Look at that. Art process by Rod Reyes. The book retails for $17.99 and has 160 pages. Deadpool 30th anniversary. That makes sense. Alright, that was my weak segue into this. Sorry about that, I'm trying. So here we have Deadpool, the Epic Collection Volume 1. And I know when I put this on my Saturday stream, somebody noticed the thumbnail and said, hey, where's the title? Interesting. I thought the same thing. The Circle Chase, which is one of the miniseries. So Epic Collection Volume 1. We have gotten into the era of Marvel Comics where 1991 to 1994 is now part of that epic era. Whew. I feel older every day. Now, they've done this before. Like if you collected the trade paperbacks of Deadpool Classics, they took out the image of Deadpool and put him behind or in front of like a bland green, was it blue? I used to have the trades, and it was just this image from New Mutants 98. So they've done that before. It's just interesting that in the catalog or whenever I did the solicits, they did have Deadpool up there. So maybe he's just such a popular character he doesn't need a title. Look at all the credits. My goodness, so many people that worked on this particular book. There is an intro here from Gail Simone. Could have been for the Deadpool Begins. This is when she was asked. This is a funny story, actually. This is when she was asked to do Deadpool, to write Deadpool. Joe Quesada called her and asked her if she would be interested in writing Deadpool. And does she even know who Deadpool is? And she answered with, oh, I absolutely love Deadpool. She had never read a Deadpool comic in her life. So I love that. Like she said, if you ever aspire to write comics and the editor-in-chief of Marvel calls you and asks if you've ever heard of Captain Jackass, my advice is for you to respond, hell yes. I love Captain Jackass. Great advice. So, kicking off this book with New Mutants 98. So this also collects X-Force number 2, 11 and 15, Nomad number 4, Deadpool the Circle Chase 1 through 4. That's the first miniseries. The Secret Defenders, one of the most underrated stories. I think that was Uncanny Omar talk pretty one day. Tom Brevoort. Secret Defenders 15 through 17. Deadpool 1 through 4. And material from Avengers 366, Silver Sable, and the Wild Pack number 23. There's a series that I'm surprised hasn't had a complete collection. So this is the first appearance of not just the Merc with the Mouth, but also Domino and Gideon. And now, don't get me started. Domino, that's not really Domino, that's copycat, but whatever. It was Domino at the time. So, I remember when this came out. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, that guy is awesome. And it was just because I loved his designs. So he's like Spider-Man with swords. And he's kind of funny. And this is when Fabian Nicieza just started writing the script. Rob Liefeld became the main plotter on the story because Louis Simonson left after the events of Extinction Agenda. And here we have the backup story. No, this is the full story, I think, of X-Force number 2. Him fighting the new Weapon X, Kane. And what's interesting during this time is Liefeld was running a little bit behind. So he had a lot of friends step in and do some inks. Like you can tell when Liefeld inks his own stuff. You can tell when McFarlane steps in. You can definitely tell when Eric Larson steps in. Brian Murray does some of the inks too. And I think this is actually Brian Murray right here. Mark Pasella supplying some of the inks. And this is Nomad right here, which is an early appearance of Deadpool outside of New Mutants and outside of X-Force. Here's Mark Pasella. So when Rob Liefeld and all the Image Gang decided to leave Marvel Comics, they still had his stories and his plot. Some of his covers. So here's the big revelation. This is when I said people are going to start on me about copycat Vanessa. And here's when the real Domino appears. But this is after the fight with the Morlocks in the tunnels. And Cable shoots Mask. But don't worry, Mask is still around. But Mark Pasella steps in. And I remember the moment that I thought, oh, that's not Rob Liefeld. Because I was reading it expecting Rob Liefeld. We didn't have the internet. We hadn't heard that these creators were leaving the books. I didn't know Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane were leaving the books. And sure enough, I could tell a big difference. And then sometimes it would fool me. Sometimes, like, I thought, okay, that's Rob Liefeld. Maybe he's still drawing some pages. Maybe he needed help for this. And then I looked at this, and that's Sean Cassidy, Banshee. But I was thinking, that's Jim Lee. Maybe they took Jim Lee to help out this issue. Nope, just Mark Pacella, who started off as a Rob Liefeld / Jim Lee clone. And it's funny, I actually have, I think I took a picture of it years ago when I was showing my friends the picture of Sabretooth from X-Men #6, Adjectiveless X-Men. Mark Pacella doing his copy of it, and then somebody else, who was it? It was a Laguna, I think, did his copy of the exact same picture. But that's another story. Let's keep going. Here's X-Force #14, just a little bit of that, and then the big fight with Cable here, with the new ongoing artist for X-Force for at least a year, Greg Capullo, who went on after this to do Spawn and this tiny, tiny little series you may have heard of for the Distinguished competition called Batman. And here's more of the mystery about Vanessa and his ties with her. Here's the fight with Black Knight, yes! And, oh man, I remember this is when I fell in love with the character of Deadpool. So Fabian Nicieza, after Rob Liefeld left, became the head writer of X-Men, X-Force, and then he started doing some miniseries with Deadpool. And I love this miniseries. And you may be familiar with the artist here, and that is, of course, Joe Madureira. And I think at one time, Harry Candelario inks the stuff in here. But I thought this was Deadpool at his best. I thought he was hilarious. He actually had a deep, dark story to his origin that gave him a lot of heart. Made him a tortured soul that he is, and why he acts the way that he does. I love that. If you've not read it, completely worth it for that alone. And then the Secret Defenders issues here, which Deadpool shows up. I think it's when Dr. Druid, I haven't read these in years, but when Dr. Druid was left in charge of the Secret Defenders and forming his own team, he put up like Luke Cage with Deadpool. And there's Strange right there, because Doctor Strange was leaving for a while. And here's the second miniseries. This is the one by Mark Waid, Ian Churchill, and Ken Lashley is the other artist on the book. And this shows more of a relationship between Siren and Deadpool. Does feature the return of Black Tom Cassidy and Juggernaut. And this is Ken Lashley supplying some of the artwork for Ian Churchill. Then all the way in the back here, you have the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, Master Edition profile, Deadpool Classic. So it was blue. This is what the cover looks like. The Deadpool Classics Companion trade paperback. X-Force Annual #2 pinup. That's Ken Lashley there. Pinup from X-Force Annual 3. Sam Keith. Didn't know that he did that. So this material had been previously collected before in the Deadpool Begins omnibus, for those of you wondering. The book has 472 pages. I've always loved this villain's cover from Joe Quesada. And retails for $44.99. And I always like the design of Slayback. This is one of the earliest trade paperbacks, Sins of the Past, as well as the Circle Chase. And then Deadpool #3. Oh, okay. So it's like an homage cover to that X-Force #2. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for your Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of all of these collected editions. Don't forget, the Hellfire Gala comes out also this week. I know some of you are only trade waiters and only get the softcover trade paperbacks, so I love making videos like this. There's nothing wrong with reading things in trade paperback format. I love reading it in any format I can get it, so Epic collections are some of my favorite ones. And let me know in the comments down below which ones you are picking up. Are you going to jump in on the Deadpool Epic Collection? Are you surprised they left out the title on the cover? Do you think it was a mistake, or do you think it was a change in the design and it was done on purpose? Are you picking up the War of the Bounty Hunters? What you think of that story so far? And what you think of Thor and Reign of X. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button. Don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. When our videos go live, you'll be notified. And speaking of live, Old Reader, New Reader returns tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wonder Maddie's heading that. Not sure exactly what she's talking about yet. But anyway, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget, stay healthy, stay safe out there. Much love.